Alright, what's going on, guys? So I think we did 4 videos now looking at some Z-Man micro finesse lures. I've got one more Z-Man lure to try out today. It is not a lure from their micro finesse collection. All of those lures were 1.75 inches. This one is slightly bigger. It's a 2-inch lure, and this is a little curly tail grub, which they call the GrubZ. So this is a 2-inch one. This is a chartreuse color with some flake, and they called this chartreuse sparkle, which makes complete sense because if you read the name, you know it's chartreuse and you know that it sparkles. All the names they have in their micro finesse collection, like Space Guppy, doesn't tell you what it is. Now, this lure, not just the Z-Man version of this lure, but the little 2-inch curly tail grub in a chartreuse color, is probably one of the most common, the most well-used beginner lures for panfish or some smaller fish. If you just go to any Walmart or any tackle shop and you just buy like a beginner fishing kit, you know, one of those that has some hooks, some jig heads, some bobbers, some weights, some lures, they're usually going to have some version of a little 2-inch curly tail grub like this, and it's usually going to be in the chartreuse color. So this is definitely a lure that is very popular on the market, very common, fished by a lot of people. It's my first time trying the Z-Man version of this, but I have fished this lure before. It was actually like one of my first lures that I ever used. I used to be a bait guy growing up, and then kind of in high school I started kind of exploring with lures more, and I ended up catching my PB largemouth, and it's still my PB largemouth to this day. It's somewhere between like 6 and 8 pounds. Caught it in New Jersey. I was fishing just a little 2-inch chartreuse curly tail grub just like this in the fall for some perch, and I didn't catch any perch that day, but I did get 2 little chain pickerel and a monster largemouth bass. So I always say you don't need big lures to catch big fish, but today we're going to test out the Z-Man version of this little curly tail grub. So it's going to be the GrubZ, and I've been talking a while now, so let's open this thing up, let's get it on a hook, and let's start fishing it over on this lake. Alrighty, so here is a better look at the lure. 2 inches long. It's on a 1/32 ounce jig head, and I'm just kind of wondering what's going to separate this lure from all the other versions of this lure. Number one, it does have that super stretchy material that Z-Man uses, so should be able to last a lot more fish. What I also like is the front here is squared off. It's flat, so you can get pushed up onto the jig head better. A lot of times these lures are curved in the front, so you can't really push it up that well. Now that's just a really small difference that's probably really irrelevant. But what I do really like about these lures is that they have a lot of action without you doing much. Even this just kind of free flowing, the tail is going to catch a lot of water and produce a really nice action. At least these lures usually do. I'm sure this one's going to be more the same, even though I haven't actually tried it yet. Going to be a little tough fishing because there's a lot of junk out there out on the surface. But let's flip it on out there. Yeah, it looks good. I could see it dropping down. Now I lost it. But as it was dropping down, I was able to see that tail flutter just a little bit. All right, now let's work it back in slowly. Let's see if we can get ourselves a fish. There we go, right on the drop. First fish of the day, largemouth. All right, so it's a solid little fish. Cast it out. I was waiting for my little curly tail grub to get toward the bottom before I started reeling it back in and jigging it. And this guy hit it right on the drop, so pretty good start. Let's get this one back, and let's get back after it. Got him. That's a smaller one, and I lost it. Don't know if I ever really had him, but I definitely had a bite Looks like I might have just grabbed the tail and pulled. And as I set the hook, it just kind of pulled the little grub off of the jig head just a little bit. So at 2 inches, I mean, almost everyone would consider this a small lure and a panfish and a bluegill and a sunfish lure, whatever you want to classify those fish as. For me though, even though it is small and you can catch some bluegills on it, normally when I'm targeting bluegills and panfish, there's another bite, and sunfish, I would like to go with something about 1.5 inches, maybe 1 1/4. But on this 2-inch grub, we got ourselves our second largemouth. Alright, so I'd say this guy's a little bit smaller than that first one we caught, but I mean, I'm not too upset about it. We're fishing light, it's a small lure, light power panfish rod, and that's a panfish sized largemouth, so not too bad. There we go. Fish on. What do we got here? Another largemouth. Alrighty, largemouth number 3 on the little curlytail grub. It's a skinny one, but about the same length as the 2 that we caught earlier. So I can usually get a pretty good amount of bass about this size over here on this lake. So I'm not surprised by the catches, and I don't mind them either. There we go. Again, right on the drop. It's not a big one. Let's get him on in here. Another largemouth. Alrighty, so another solid looking little panfish sized largemouth on the drop. I think I started to just kind of jig it up a little bit off of the bottom after the cast, and that's when he hit. But just the lure on its own, dropping down by itself with no action, that tail spins around really nice. Creates a nice action, and the fish seem to love it. That's a bigger one. Wonder if that's going to be a mine or just a big bass. But that guy pulled a little bit of drag, and he's actually fighting well. Oh, it's a peacock. That's why he fought better. All right, first peacock of the day. All right, so we got ourselves our first peacock of the day. I think it's bigger than all the largemouths we caught. He certainly fought better, and it's definitely a nice little change of pace. So first one of these guys for the day. I think that's the best catch so far. But let's keep going. Let's see what else we can get. Alright guys, so that's going to do it. A little bit less than an hour of fishing, probably about 50 minutes or so. That's 50, not 1550. And I'd say it was pretty good. So like I said in the intro, this is a staple. So a 2-inch grub in chartreuse color is a just super basic beginner lure that probably everyone has fished at some point in their lives. If you buy like a beginner kit, starter kit, you're gonna find these in them. Now the question is the Z-Man one better than those other ones? When it comes to getting bites, I'd say they're probably about the same. I mean, they're basically the same exact lure. The difference is the quality. So this is the super stretchy, super durable material. I caught about half a dozen largemouths and then 1 peacock on it, and it's still in very good shape. The peacock tore it just a little bit, pulled the hook through just a little bit, but I could still probably catch a dozen, maybe even 2 dozen more fish on this single lure, whereas those cheaper brand ones, the ones that aren't made of this plastic, this material, you might have to replace it after 1, 2, 3 fish, something like that. So sure, these are probably going to be, I don't know, 2 times more expensive, maybe 3 times more expensive, but I think it is way worth it. Now, this material, besides being super stretchy, super durable, it does float. And I mean, it's good and bad depending on the situation. Today, I kind of wish it didn't float as well. You could always put on a heavier jig head. Okay, I think it sunk just a little bit too slow. Would have liked to have seen it fall down just slightly faster. I think the action on the tail would have been even better. But that's kind of the thing with these curly tails. The action's always good. It just kind of spins and twirls nicely as it's falling down. And we got a pretty good amount of fish on it. So I would say I am very happy with it. I think it's definitely worth the money over some of the cheaper versions of this just classic staple of a lure. 2-inch curly tail, twister tail, 2-inch that's the same thing. 2-inch curly tail grub. So yeah, I think it was a pretty good day. Hope you guys liked it, and I will see you guys next time.